Folks think you're rich when they see you have horses. Well, that might be true if my income sources weren't eating up every month on the boardage for all of our four-legged friends. My accountant says that my funds are depleted, but I keep my wealth right where I can see it, in pastures and barns and in show arenas, and because of the money she spends. We're horse poor, I sell one, she buys two more. The luxuries we could afford if we was rich and not horse poor.
Well, that's our friend Cor Blund and Jada Dreyer with Horse Poor, just released in the last couple days. This is Cowboy
Finally.
Shit. Yeah, finally. This is Cowboy Shit with Ted and Wasey. I'm Ted, he's Wasey. Episode 85 is here. And
I'm convinced that song's about my mom.
That's what you were saying before. Hey, you.
Yeah, just with the like growing up and the amount of horses that have been through our place and that my mom has bought and sold. I am 100% convinced that song is about.
Like your like mom and dad didn't even have a house until recently because they were horse poor. Like they
essentially, yeah,
only bought the.
It's more so with like the nature of the industry they work in. But yeah, it could be a bit of it could be attributed to that. But that in saying that, the horse selling is probably what helped them and they'll ultimately buy that place. Yeah, so,
there you go.
Man, it's quite the industry, that's for sure. We just like my girlfriend and I just got back from a trip to East Regina and back with a load of 5 horses for them. So
5 horses?
Yeah,
at one time?
We picked up 3 in Broadview and then picked up 2 in Regina on our way back from Broadview.
Damn.
So it was a long trip, man. Commercial hauling, don't recommend. Not a job choice of mine.
Did you were you paid handsomely for your services?
I mean, no, but that's part of like when you do stuff for your parents. So it's even like growing up on the ranch, you're just basically free labor. So, and then and I'm always going to be, my parents will always just be able to pull that card on me till the day I die. So, and I mean, it's always nice to help them out a bit too, but man, it was a long trip. I am dead even to this moment right now. I'm freaking wiped. No, I'm not used to the hard miles on the road anymore.
That's probably the furthest you've been since summertime, since you went to the stag party, hey? Like usually you'd make a trip like that once every couple of weeks, and now it's like twice in the last year.
Yeah, really? I don't make that trip near as much anymore. I was like telling Remy on the way, like when I was CCA rodeoing still, like we'd make that trip once a weekend almost. And now I'd make it once a year, once or twice a year now, and it's a long, especially when you don't like take any time to just hang out. Like we literally drove to Emerald Park, slept overnight, got up at 6 or 5. It's like almost 5 Alberta time. Went to Broadview, picked up horses, and drove straight back. It was a quick trip.
Quick there and back. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, I get it. Well, Horse Poor, the song from Corb and Jada, is now out. It's a song they've been performing and singing for a long time. Mm-hmm. Pretty popular little track that didn't make an album till now. Made the Agricultural Tragic album on the deluxe version. So
that song title fits the album name like to a T.
Yeah, it's ideal, and really cool song though from Corb and Jada there. One we've seen them perform for a long time, but cool that they finally released it. So get that one for yourselves on iTunes or Spotify, wherever you listen to your music. Make sure to buy the records though, and buy the music. That's the best for the.
That's how they make the cash.
Artists, as we now know, especially right now with no live shows, is you got to have some sales to back.
Okay, so I was thinking about the other day. Is it weird that like I love going to like concerts and live music? It's one of my favorite things to do, but I absolutely hate like live recordings of songs. I don't hate them, but I just I really don't like it. Is that a strange thing?
I don't know what to say. You like being at the shows, but the live recordings aren't great. I
think a lot of it's about the experience for sure. Yeah. But like some live performances I've been to have been like absolutely like some of the best thing I've ever heard in my life. But just I have like even like since I've gotten to the vinyl, I ended up picking up like an Eric Church, like his live album, and it's just not the same for me. I love the studio recording versions of stuff, and I'm trying to listen to it when I'm just chilling. I think it's weird. It's really strange, just given how much I love live music, how much I don't like the live recordings of songs.
I don't know what to say there, Wace. I can't really say much. I don't have an opinion at this point.
Fair enough,
but I kind of agree on some of it though, and I can't play any live versions of stuff at any event, so I've always steered away from it. So it'd sound weird to have something live on a show, but like at a live show we were doing, right? To have a live recording. So yeah,
that'd be a weird dynamic.
We better get right to it here, Wace. So it turns out, friend of the show, episode 74, if I'm remembering right, Matt Cohen, he's having a little bit of a...
He's in some hot water.
I don't know if he's in some hot water. He's in the middle of a battle of some sort. He's in the middle of a tiff with the PRCA. And for those that don't know, go check out his stories on Facebook and posts on Facebook and on Instagram and whatnot. Check it out for yourself. Make your own assumptions. But at one point, this was a while ago now, but the PRCA actually sent him a letter saying that they were going to fine him for talking about getting fined while on our show. We already sent Matt a note. We told him we'd pay that fine, but apparently the PRCA's run him up a bill for about $250,000 and banned him for like 20 years. Right now.
Really?
Yeah. Man, you haven't been following this? Holy shit.
No. Man, I've been on the road all weekend.
That's been going on for a couple weeks. But anyways, no big deal.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I shouldn't say that I don't know anything that's going on, but I didn't know it was like for that sum of money. That's insane.
Yeah, and I mean, he doesn't have to pay it if he doesn't want to go back to any PRCA rodeos, which I doubt he will now. I don't know what to say on it, but it's quite the deal. So just kind of making people
Seems
aware.
a bit like
check it out.
Ludicrous to me in a sense.
Oh yeah, very ludicrous.
Anyways, yeah.
Some intellectual property that maybe have been used without a certain license. But then again, I'm not sure what the rules are with the PRCA. I know at one point with the PBR and with the PRCA, I think that whenever a photographer, like especially with the CPR and PRCA, they buy a card for insurance purposes and whatnot, whatever else. But those events are almost like private, so that people can't take and sell photos. But PRCA took a photo and then gave it to somebody else, which isn't quite right. But
yeah, no, it doesn't add up for sure.
But I think some of the associations own whatever the photographer shoots. But I don't know what all the rules are. So
where do you draw the line? Yeah.
Get a photographer on to talk about the certain rules, or maybe ask Matt exactly what's going on. Maybe we got to ask somebody from the PRCA what the hell's going on too. It seems like quite the deal. But anyways, that's one of the things that's going on right now. It's almost spring up here our way.
Dude, how about the snow in Texas?
Yeah, quite the storm.
That's insane, dude.
Got to send our thoughts to all the folks down there. That's quite the wreck. Quite the wreck. I know last time I was down there and there was snow, it was a disaster because there's no salt trucks. It was just a total mess.
Oh, dude, when I was in college in Texas, there was a skiff of snow and they shut down the college for 2 days.
Yeah.
Like nobody could drive. Like it was nuts. So I can only imagine what it's like with actual like winter temperatures down there.
We drove from Vegas to Fort Worth, like when I was in school down there to go to the rodeo, and it was a total wreck. There, just like nothing I've ever seen before. Because up here, you'll get snow and you'll get you'll get a big storm, and it's bad for a while. But like it was bad for like a week. Like it wasn't good till we got heading back on the way home. It was like 4 or 5 or maybe a week later. It was wild, but quite the time.
That's crazy. I remember like telling a story, or like a time when I was living at your place and there was a nasty snowstorm on like probably like 3 or 4 feet of snow at one point. You might have been at the NFR or gone somewhere. But anyways, I was just hanging out. It was like a Saturday and Deerfoot was closed and like it was a nasty snowstorm, whatever. So a buddy texted me. He's like, hey, come for a beer. So whatever. I take a 40-minute Uber ride to the Southwest to go to a brewery in this snowstorm, and it's crazy to see what's going down in Texas with like whatever. And then we just like there's people up here who do like we'll drive through a snowstorm to go ski for a day or whatever. Like it's wild to see how much different of a landscape it is. The
getting back to Horsepour, I have you watched the video yet?
I haven't watched the full video yet. No.
Did you see most of it? Parts.
I saw like whatever clips were posted on social media and stuff. I don't watch much music videos, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Yeah. I just listen.
I'm curious what the shirt budget was on the video shoot. There were some pretty fancy shirts. So if you haven't seen the music video, you got to check that out too. But what else we got, Waste? We got almost springs here. We're almost a year into this pandemic bullshit, and the
year of Hershey, man. What's the one positive thing that's come from me? Like your biggest take or your biggest like I don't know positive thing to happen. I guess like what's like something you're
done
proud
this
of?
before.
Have we done it already in a year?
Like,
a year?
We did the merch, right? Like it hasn't been it's been most of a year, but like the merch is a big thing that we started cooking more at home.
It's just crazy. It's just crazy to see that's only been a year of this, man.
Cleaning out all the old bottles at the house, the alcohol, finished a bottle of scotch out the other day that I saw I saw the label said 2014. So
yeah,
that stuff's probably more alcoholic now, but yeah, man. Yeah, things are good. Awesome show we got on tap here today. CJ Box, my favorite author, has been since I was a kid in school. He's coming up after the break here. Waste, you got any song requests for the interlude? I'm putting myself on the spot too because I don't know what to play here right now. I'm just trying to think of what would be a good maneuver.
Doesn't Corbin have another new song out on his album?
He does, but I don't have it here yet. I wasn't prepared. I don't have access to everything right now unless I steal it off YouTube.
I got nothing for you right now, though.
Well, this is episode 85 of Cowboy Shit with Ted and Wasey. Our interview with Mr. CJ Box coming up after the break.
Go in with dynamite, blow up the nest. Away with a shotgun the rest. Up against the mountains, blast the brains on the rocks. Then freeze them in a winter, in the spring, let them rock. Who you gonna get to get them under control? Somebody, anybody, call up the rap patrol. Take off the heads, feed them poison, feel the choke.
He's a #1 New York Times best-selling author of 28 novels, including the Joe Pickett series. He won the Edgar Allan Poe Award for the best novel for Blue Heaven in 2009. He was awarded the 2016 Western Heritage Award for Literature by the National Cowboy Museum and the Spur Award from Western Writers of America for Best Contemporary Novel. The novels have been translated into 30 languages, and over 10 million copies of his books have been sold in the U.S. and abroad. He's an executive producer on ABC's Big Sky, which is based on his Cassie Duell novels, Starting with the Highway. Hailing from Saratoga, Wyoming, where he lives with his wife, Lori, please welcome to the program, CJ Box.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. Thanks for being on the show. You've been somebody I've wanted to have on the show since we kind of started it, and I got to meet you last year at the NFR through our friend Stu Pearson, and
I remember.
Yeah, and you signed the book, the one of your latest books from I think 2 years ago, The Bitter Roots. I thought it was so cool to meet somebody that I've been following and reading your books since I was about, I don't know, I think it was about 14 or 15, and we talked about that day. But it's an honor for you to take the time to be on the show. Thank you.
Sure, works out great. Good time of year to do this. It's winter here in Wyoming, and not a lot going on.
Have you at least been having some reasonable weather lately, though?
It's been pretty cold. We live on a little ranch, and we've had snow on the ground since November, which is unusual for here. Usually it melts away and then snows again. So it's been cold. But I kind of like it. It's kind of a resorty area that I live in, so the summer's pretty busy with things. So it's good to have time off.
And so we were talking before, and you actually mentioned you're ahead of the game on your latest work. That probably doesn't happen very often with the travel schedule you would usually have.
It has actually never happened before. I've never missed a deadline for a book, but I've been on such a pace over the last basically 20 years of pace has kind of worked out to about a book and a half a year. And that's a lot. I mean, it's just me. I don't have an army of researchers or anything like that. It's just me going at it. So yeah, not traveling because of the pandemic primarily gave me a lot more time in front of the desk, in front of the keyboard. And I'm way ahead of the game when it comes to my deadlines and new projects.
So you said you were in your office. Is this where you do your writing, like right where we're seeing you from today?
Yep. It's on top of a barn. When we built the barn, we built an office on top. So every day I come out and walk through the corral and climb up the stairs, and it's pretty cool. It feels like an office away from the home because it is, and it's a pretty comfortable place.
Wasey, I think I better let you ask this first question on the writing process you had from earlier.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Like, something I've always wondered about with writing and stuff, because I've experienced it too. Like, is writing block like a big thing, and like what kind of processes do you follow to overcome it, if it is?
I can't say I've ever had it.
Yeah.
I think it's a mental thing that I've always heard about it too, but it's just, I don't know what you do for your living, besides podcasts, but whatever it is, you can't really say you have a block that day. You just can't go to work. You just go. And that's the way I treat writing. My process is when I start out the book, I usually come up with one or two topics that I want to research. If you've read them, you know that usually one of them is kind of a natural resource type issue. And then sometimes a law enforcement one, or even high tech or something. But because each book has different controversies and issues in it that are modern day, and some kind of ripped from the headlines, and things that affect people on the ground here in Wyoming and the Mountain West and this part of the world. So I research those things, and then I start an outline and bullet by bullet kind of work my way through the opening chapter all the way to the end by bullet point outlines, using that research to kind of weave my way through it. And the way I look at it is, how can I take topics like, let's say the last book, long range rifle shooting, and rogue bears in Yellowstone. How can I weave a story through those two things that I think are very interesting that I've researched? And then I just go to work every day and try to do minimum of 1,000 words, which is really isn't all that long. That's, 4 pages. And there are days when I don't feel like writing, and don't feel inspired at all. But because I've got my outline and I know where it's going, I can at least push it forward and then come back later at a later time and fill that in a little bit, or amend it or edit it. I do lots of editing, and then that's how I keep pushing forward. I've never, in 21 years of doing this, never sat around going, "Oh my God, I don't have any ideas. I can't do anything."
So is the process for each book the same? Or are you able to go like chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and all the way to the end? Or do you bounce kind of back and forth from the beginning to the end and then back to a certain part? Or even on those days that you say you don't feel like writing or you don't have your best, do you have to go back on stuff you've already wrote, and kind of when you're feeling better about it?
It's generally pretty linear from starting at the chapter 1 and pushing all the way to the end. But I change it up sometimes. I need to. And, that's one of the great things with, the writing process, and you having computers, and being able to just keep going back and filling in things that I might have forgotten the first time through, or fix things early in the book that will, come into play later in the book, that sort of thing. I'm going through something right now with the book I'm writing, which won't even be out for 2 years, where I've got specific locations, specific cities that I want to include in this book. And I don't write about places unless I can go there. So I'm writing a book that's around all of these chapters that will be in these specific places, because I can't visit them yet. So I'll write the entire book and leave 3 big holes in it and go back and fill them in later.
And is that another Cassie Duell book, or is that a Joe Pickett book?
It will be a Joe Pickett book 2 years from now.
And
this gets confusing.
Oh yeah, fair enough. Well, I talked to both my brother and my dad before we did this show, because I found your books from my school librarian, like in the 8th or 10th grade, or I don't even know when it was now. I think I read Winter
Excellent.
first. and I ended up I've been on, I buy them every year, and buy the hardcovers. I got a stack of them here. I got in case I need them. But
Teddy's a number one fan.
Yeah.
He's a top fan.
Top fan. But I asked them both about a couple questions, and my brother mentioned he mentioned Dan Brown. He said if Dan Brown writes about a window in the bathroom of the Louvre, he goes there and he finds it and sees this window. So it's an actual piece that it's real. So it kind of blends the reality of what's fiction and what's real. And my brother was curious. He says, do you actually go scout out all these locations and go and see every canyon and the hole in the wall that Nate Romanowski hides out in? Like, are these actual places?
Most of them are. Most of them are actual, and that doesn't mean I necessarily have to go. A lot of the places I've been to before, so I don't have to go there. But if I use the actual name of the location, like Yellowstone, Jackson Hole, Hole in the Wall, whatever I described is going to be as realistic as I can make it. Mm-hmm. I make up locations and, physical attributes, the town where Joe Pickett lives, outside of Saddle String, Wyoming, isn't really a town. It's a fictional place. And that way I can, give it attributes that a real town might not have, or, have different settings in it. But if I say, Joe Pickett's going to Jackson Hole, I try to be as accurate as I can. A couple years ago, I set a book called The Disappeared in a little town called Saratoga, Wyoming, which is where I live. And so every business, every place that's mentioned in the book is real, every street, because that's really important. I don't ever want to be accused of inauthenticity if I can avoid it. And rarely has that happened over the years.
With the travel and going to see these places, have you found any other spots that you maybe didn't know of before? Or are there any finds on travel? Like you've worked with the Wyoming Travel and Tourism, the tourism board, isn't it? Is that correct?
That's right. I'm the chairman of the tourism board right now. Picked a great year for that. Huh?
So are there any places you've found in Wyoming that or been to that you'd maybe like kind of recommend for other folks to go to, or how does that kind of weave into things?
Oh, sure. I mean, I'm a big proponent of visitors in the state and the Mountain West and Rocky Mountains in general. And that's what I write about. So, but because Joe Pickett is a Wyoming game warden, I stick to Wyoming. But I've moved over the years, moved the books around to just about every corner of the state for something happening. And it's not all they're not all Chamber of Commerce type descriptions about some of these places, but I think they're accurate. And I will continue to kind of move it around, and because I think it's fun. It's fun to write. And it's fun to not only have, avoiding what's called in the mystery writing business, the Cabot Cove syndrome. I mean, how many murders can there be in a tiny little town year after year after year? So it makes more sense to, move the stories around. And plus it's fun to have Joe Pickett go to places he's not as familiar with and discover them along with the reader. In addition to Joe Pickett books, obviously I read other books, Cassie Duell books, The Highway, and other standalones, and they're all set in specific places outside of Wyoming.
I forget where the Badlands was, but it really reminded me of a little place called it reminded me of thinking about Williston or a Newtown or somewhere over there. That's kind of it was a fictional place, but it was basically Williston.
It was basically Williston. I didn't want to call it Williston.
Yeah.
But I went there what would have been 4 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe, just as the boom was really roaring really there, crazy, the oil boom. It was hard to even find a room to stay in. And I went to North Dakota in January, which is not recommended. But I learned so much that I never could have imagined by going there. And I was lucky enough that the sheriff at the time, he's since retired, but he had been the sheriff in Williston when it was tiny. And he was still the sheriff now that it was booming. Mm-hmm. So he had a great perspective on the area. And plus he was a fan. He was a reader.
Really?
So he drove me around. We went to the man camps. We went to some of the little red light areas. We went to the train station where workers would get off every day and have a job by that night. And wow. It was just unbelievable education about that area and the fracking boom going on in North Dakota. And I was able to use that in the book, I hope, in a pretty interesting way.
I thought it was interesting. It was, especially, I think that I was in Williston maybe a year before the Badlands came out, I remember doing a few bull ridings in that area between Newtown and Williston, and then I think there was one over in like Sydney, Montana, or something. But I ended up being over in that area and reading the book not long after, and I was like, holy smokes, this is exactly what it was, because it was chaos. Like going through Newtown, there was one stoplight, and every building in town was covered in mud because the big trucks from the oil field were going through, and it was just a disaster. Like it was obscene how what the place looked like from the boom. It was totally wild.
Yep, and it was a fun thing to write about, because at the time, and even now, there aren't a lot of books set in places like North Dakota, and there are a few more in Wyoming now, few in Montana. You guys in Canada, there are books set in Western Canada, but they tend to not necessarily, I don't know, I'm going to say bad things. I think a lot of times the books that are set in the West, whether it's US or Canada, are written by people who just visited or think they know it. And often when people who live here read those books, they might be great, really well written, but you can tell they're not written from the point of view of an insider. Everybody's kind of rural and not real bright, and everybody speaks in a Southern accent, which none of us do. Mm-hmm. So I always want to try to avoid those traps. It's for the same reason I would not set a book in Manhattan or Boston, is I know that I would be revealed as somebody who doesn't know the area well enough to write about it. Didn't stop some people, but it does concern me.
My dad had the question of how long you plan to write for. You're already 28 books in, and I don't know if I don't want to offend you, but you're 62 years old. The guy that I'm taking over for, he's 65. So how much longer do you intend to write? How many more Joe Pickett and Cassie Duell books can we expect?
I have no idea.
Don't know.
I'm just I don't have a strategic plan. I never sat down and figured out an arc where, okay, this will be the last one I do. I enjoy it too much. It's a pretty good job. I work a few hours a day, and don't have to show up at any particular time. I really enjoy it, especially the first drafts of every novel. And I'd drive my wife out of her mind if I was just sitting around the house. So I like traveling. I like doing the research. I'm going to keep doing it as long as I feel like the books are fresh and different and not a formula. I'm a big reader and a fan of series, and read a lot. And I think you can sense when a writer's getting tired or bored. And I hope that if I ever produce a book like that, I'll recognize it, or somebody close to me will recognize it, and then I can call it a day. But that's a ways off.
Who do you read?
I read really widely. Try to read like fiction, nonfiction, and about every fourth one of the fiction books tends to be mystery, crime, a thriller type book. But I don't want to just read in one genre and one type, because I learn stuff from all kinds. But as far as my favorite author, living author, is Thomas McGuane, who's kind of considered a literary novelist out of Montana. I've been reading him since I was in college, and he's still at it, and he's still writing stories. But I'm a big fan of like Cormac McCarthy.
Nice.
In the more mystery kind of crime genre, Michael Connelly, somebody I don't miss any of his books. John Sanford, Denise Mina. I've just read the whole series set in the Northern Ireland by Adrian McKinty. So I try to read a lot, and I also get just, you probably see a lot of books that have quotes on them, blurbs on them, new novels, check this one out. I get a lot of first novels with requests to read them and offer a quote. And some of them are horrible, but the ones that are really good, I love to provide a good quote for them and hope that it'll help launch their career. So I read a lot of first novels, a lot more than I would if I was just picking them out of the shelves.
What do you do when it's bad? Do you like let the person down easy, or do you like offer them like advice, or how does that go?
When I first started, it was, such an honor and weird thing to be asked to provide a quote for a book. And, because it certainly helped me with my first book. I had some great quotes, like from Tony Hillerman and others who really seemed to really like that book. And I know that a lot of people who bought it said, well, I read Tony Hillerman likes it, I'll give it a shot. So I know they mean something, they're valuable, but every once in a while I'd read a book that I thought was just awful. And so I didn't want to just say it's awful. And so I'd write something like, this is a writer to watch. So you can take that nice. However you want. Like, he's got another book. Avoid him. But now I don't do that. Now, if it doesn't appeal to me, and I know that my readers would not like it, I just kind of gently say it's book's not for me. And thanks for the opportunity, but somebody else will probably love it.
Wasey, did you want to get into?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, kind of go back to the process part of things. You mentioned how you didn't want to like fall into like a general like framework for your stories. Like, so how do you avoid like being redundant and keeping it fresh with, especially like with a recurring character like Joe Pickett, with so many novels based around him? Like you mentioned how different areas and stuff, but again, you could end up being redundant if you're in different areas. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there's two ways, at least. Two reasons. One is that each book, like I mentioned earlier, has one or two big issues or controversies or news items that set it apart from just a standard kind of like police procedural or murder mystery. So the books are about things other than the crime part, or the natural resource part, or the game warden part. That's one. And the other is that all my books take place in real time, meaning the characters get older with each book. In Joe Pickett's case, he's got 3 daughters. The oldest one was 7 years old in the very first book, and open season. And some of the book was told from her point of view. And now in the one I'm writing right now, she's 4 years out of college and working for Nate Romanowski in his raptor bird business. So because the characters keep growing and getting older and taking on their own personalities, I think it changes things up. There are some, we've probably all read books where it seems like the protagonist never ages and is always able to just beat up whoever he comes across. And I think you have to suspend disbelief so much for these kind of series that just makes it almost too much, at least for me. So by aging the characters and having them face different things in every book, different real life issues, as well as the controversies or issues, I think it differentiates enough about them.
Do you ever find yourself in like a writing zone? Like, do you ever just sit down and you can just write for 12 hours straight and hammer out like a full like 3 chapters of a book, or has that ever happened?
I've never written for 12 hours straight, but I've definitely gotten in the zone before where I start and then I look up and it's 5 hours later. And I mentioned earlier that I try to do like a minimum of 1,000 words a day. I've had days where I've gone 4,000 or 5,000, 6,000 words without intending to or planning on it. But it's usually toward the end of the book when things are getting really exciting,
juicy.
Yeah, and there are times when I've totally lost track of time and space, and forgotten to eat. That doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen.
Another question my brother had was about Nate. Where did you come up with this guy? Were there any real influences or I know there's some names you use different times, like Chuck Kuhn is one who I remember meeting at the NFR before.
That's right.
But like, where does Nate come from? He can't be a real guy. Now, you probably get this lots of the times, but I mean, he's such an interesting part of the books.
Yeah, Nate Romanowski is a kind of outlaw falconer with a special forces background, whose passion is falconry, and he's actually one of the few characters actually based on a real person in my book. Yeah, Nate's based on a friend of mine that I grew up with in high school in Wyoming. He was a year ahead of me in high school in Casper, Wyoming. He was big guy, blonde guy, middle linebacker on the football team, tough guy, and then went off to the Air Force Academy and then into Special Forces. And I used to go falconry hunting with him. So when you're doing falconry hunting, the bird is doing all the hunting. You are the bird dog. So the bird goes up in the air and you go out and walk around to the sagebrush or whatever, and might spook a rabbit that you don't even see. And all of a sudden the falcon comes screaming out of the sky and kills it. Same thing with ducks and other animals. So I learned all about the falconry from this friend of mine. And he's still around, still lives in Wyoming. Had gone through a whole series of birds over his lifetime, and falconers just see the world differently than normal people. I think it's because they have to devote so much time and energy into that bird. You can't just take him out on weekends, that kind of thing. Your life has to revolve around the falcon, and some falconers have 3, 4, 5 birds that they're constantly sending up and flying. I say in the books, which is true, that one of the strange things about falconry is that bird can fly away at any time, never come back. You can't reel them in. So falconers have to establish kind of a special weird bond with their birds that they want to always come back, but at the same time, they're not domesticated. So I just found that fascinating. The way they just view life and death, and is another thing. I mean, I remember my friend who's based on Nate. I used to go out with him while he would sneak up on top of buildings and capture pigeons to feed to his birds. One time, the cops thought we were breaking into a jewelry store. And I actually got thrown against the wall and a gun pressed against my head.
Jesus.
We had to explain, no, we're trying to get pigeons to feed to falcons, which they thought was a lie.
This sounds made up.
And so you do different things as part of it. It's a little bit outlaw-y because sometimes to get things that they eat, you have to sometimes stretch laws and regulations. But I think that's their mindset. So
how much of the time I want to ask about 2 things. How much of your time is spent researching on the road compared to the writing? Like, is it a 50-50? Is it half research? And but then I got to ask too, how much time do you spend with your friend based on Nate? This sounds like a cool guy to be around. I hope lots of research ended up being with him.
Well, it hasn't the last few years, simply because he's really slowed down. Okay. And right now he doesn't have a bird. But early on in the first few years, I would continue to go out on trips with him and pick up little, the terminology and, how, and I went with him to a couple of falconry meetings a couple of times and saw other falconers and saw that they were all a little bit off. But that's what they are. But as far as research goes, I would say less than 10% of the time. It's always the research I do at the front part until I think I know the subject matter well enough that I can then write. But the writing is the time-consuming part of it. Research is fun. I've got to do all sorts of things over the years. Almost anything that's in the books, I've at least done. I can't say every single thing, but the wilderness horseback trips into Yellowstone and climbing wind turbines and being in a forest fire and whitewater rafting, all those kind of things I did. Some of them I didn't do for the book. Some of them I just did and then incorporated later into a book. But I do try to have gone there and done that in order to describe it.
Sorry, go ahead, Wade. Sounds like
I was gonna kind of go back to kind of the question I was thinking of with writing from different perspectives. You mentioned in the first Joe Pickett novel, some of it was through the perspective of his daughter and then through him. Like, does it make it more challenging for you to be able to put it into words through different lenses of people?
It does. How do you
navigate that?
I just try to, I think one of the most important things in fiction writing that even some well-established writers screw up at times is point of view. There's different, and I never went to a creative writing class and learned about all these things. I just read books, but there's the omniscient point of view where the writer is telling you what everybody is thinking all the time and what is taking place. Or there's a point of view, third person, where every chapter is told from the perspective of somebody in it. So you're experiencing it through their eyes. Sometimes that's kind of unreliable, but I think it helps readers get to like and know characters more, to be in their heads and to simply be told what they're doing, what they're wearing, that kind of thing. So I do a lot of different points of view in my books, but try not to do it in a way that the reader goes, "Oh man, I'm being jerked here and there by these people." So yeah, I do books from, with points of view from children, from women, from bad guys, kind of what they're thinking and why they're thinking it. And then that's how I tell a story. I've only done one book from first person, meaning using the word I as the character. And it worked. It was called 3 Weeks to Say Goodbye. It was really creepy, but I didn't like how it felt later to, in fact, become the character in the book. Some people like that. I didn't.
I think we've got to get into some of the we got to get into some Big Sky talk, and then we got to talk about the new show with Joe Pickett. But I got something that I'm curious about here now. What did you do before you were a full-time writer? I know part of your time while you've been writing is on the Cheyenne Frontier Days committee. You were part of the committee at one point, but what was your work before being a full-time writer?
Well, I had a bunch of jobs, over the years. I worked on ranches. I was worked on an exploration survey crew for energy companies in Wyoming. I managed a small chamber of commerce. Okay. In a little town. Then I went to work for the state of Wyoming in tourism development, and then started my own company. And for 24 years, we had that, my wife and I, where we promoted the Rocky Mountain West to Europeans and Asians and Australians and Scandinavians. We weren't tour operators. We actually worked for the tourism boards, the state tourism boards. So I traveled a lot internationally. And the one thing that's really turned out to be valuable is that part of that job was escorting tour operators, travel agents, journalists all over the Rocky Mountain West, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, South Dakota, North Dakota. So I kind of got to see this part of the country through the eyes of people who weren't from here. And that has really helped me narrow down what a unique area it is. So I had that tourism background. And part of the thing with that too is that meant I would take everybody, take a bunch of ski journalists from Europe to every ski resort in the Rocky Mountains in the U.S. And that was a pretty fun job. Oh yeah. Or dude ranches or adventure vacations, so that they could write about it and I could experience it. So that I did 20 years of that kind of activity before the books really took off. Okay. Well, that really adds up now. It makes sense. Makes a lot of sense on how you know it so well. The average. It's just like there have been some rodeo aspects in the books, as you know. Yeah. And I use a lot of real rodeo cowboy names as characters in the books. Long oh yeah. Yeah, because whenever I need a name, if I don't have one, I go to the PRCA Media Handbook and grab a name. I joke, because some people have said, don't these cowboys get mad when their names are in there as bad guys? And I said, how many rodeo cowboys read books? Come on. About this. But I have learned that I'm on two hands. Yeah. A few do. And I've met a few that say, yeah, I saw my name in that thing. I was wondering what you were thinking, kind of stuff. But most of them that see their name pretty much enjoy it. And I never use their first and last name. I use one guy's first name and another guy's last name.
Yeah.
But as you know, you can't beat the names that are in pro rodeo.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they're the funniest names ever. And, you know, when I name a character Rope or Spud, people think I'm just really, really creative. But all I did was go, you know, read the handbook.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering when you steal a PBR name for a Dirt Eater, when you're going to have a Dirt Eater in your book. For he'll be in there.
I'll note that right now. I'll write that down for the next one.
Have you ever faced any backlash for like a situation, like a person or situation in a book being like too real or like too specific?
Not too real or specific, because I never try to write a character based on a real person by name ever. I usually put the names in after the book is done, because I always need names. The only backlash I've ever received, I'm not going to name names, was for a character who turned out to be the bad Montana State Trooper in the book The Highway, and now Big Sky, who turns out to be quite a deviant. And his daughter didn't like it. But, you know, I don't blame her. Yeah. But in order to get in, I give away a lot of names in a book for charitable auctions and causes. The person who wins it has to fill out a little form that says, you know, release me from any liability, and they have no editorial control over how their name is used. And this woman who was so mad at me did fill out the form and said she, you know, conformed to all of the tenets in it, but she didn't like how the name was portrayed, even though it had nothing to do with the real person.
We got to talk about Big Sky, and it's been a huge hit so far. Has it totally exceeded your expectations to this point, or what are your thoughts getting into it so far?
It kind of has, yeah. You know, the David E. Kelly, who does, you know, the executive producer, and he's done he's done a million shows. I think he's done 14 or 15 different TV shows, and he takes a real hands-on approach. He doesn't just get the material, and he wrote every script for the first 10 episodes, based on, and then optioned each one of those books. And I've been working with him now for 5 years to get this thing. You know, he had it at a different network originally, and then at a streaming service, and for different. This is how Hollywood works. For whatever reason, a new executive comes in, they don't like what the old one. Finally, when it landed at ABC, and they did what they called what's it called?
It's not the pilot,
a series order.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they didn't even order a pilot. They just said, we want 10 episodes. Boom.
Oh, wow.
And that's very unusual. It's called straight to series order. Very unusual. Really? And it all happened really pretty fast once they decided to do it. And so, yeah, I've been surprised. It's I had a Zoom call like this with David Kelly and a couple other producers a few weeks ago, and they said ABC said it's the highest rated new drama they've had in years and years and years.
Oh, wow.
And so and I saw the other day that the rating, or because there's so many ways to watch television these days, not just when it's on, that 47.5 million people have watched it, which is huge for numbers for these days with so many shows available. So yes, I'm surprised how well it has gone, especially because the material's really dark, and it's not a happy subject, but I think they do it well enough, and there's enough suspense. And at the rate they're going to burn through all of my books in this series in the first year.
Pretty quick, yeah.
And maybe a year and a half. And then I don't know what. But at least at this point, they're all it's all going to be based on the Cassie Duell books.
What's the next one? Is it Badlands, or is it I'm forgetting the names of everything right now, but I had them right beside me. But what's the next one?
I asked it will be the Bitterroots, the most recent Cassie Duell book.
Oh, okay.
Will be kind of where the series goes from here.
I was thinking it could be Paradise Valley too. We're probably not going to go back to.
I hope so.
Further back. But
actually, they're not going to take them in chronological order.
Okay.
Just like the Highway was kind of in effect the second of the Cody Hoyt Cassie Duo books. They started with that one, then they're going to go to Bitterroots, and then they're going to go to the other books, not necessarily in order.
Okay.
Which is fine. At least they're sticking to the source material.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I read something the other day that mentioned that you're not on location because it's in Vancouver. They're filming Big Sky in Vancouver. But what is the
Right.
what is your involvement now with the show?
It's not. I don't have I don't have no day-to-day involvement. I don't really want to. One of the people I really admire in the mystery writing community, I mentioned Michael Connolly. I've talked to him. He's had the show Bosch that's been on Amazon for a few years, and been involved with movies and other TV shows. And his advice to me was, your greatest contribution is providing the source material. After that, nothing is up to you. And that's true. And I knew that going in. I mean, it's kind of I'm a fisherman, and it's kind of the difference between, rowing my little drift boat down the river and fly fishing, and being on a huge cruise ship with everybody with their own opinions. And that's what the set of a TV show is like, where you can't get too hung up that every line isn't from the book, or that every character doesn't look or act exactly like you envision them. That's just not going to happen. It's too collaborative. It's a different medium entirely. I'm getting all the emails and notes from people going, "Oh man, they ruined your book because such and such didn't happen like it did in the book." I'm just grateful that most of it is fairly accurate to the books, and that the spirit is right. And I know that there's going to be changes made. It's just, it has to be. You cannot film a novel. You have to abridge it.
And everyone's thoughts or imagination creates a different picture that they expect as compared to what it ends up being. That's
right. That was one of the weird things with the book, The Highway, which is Big Sky so far has been based on, is that there were a lot of readers, I shouldn't say a lot, but a number of readers who couldn't finish that book, and because they thought it was the subject matter was too disturbing, and they'd say that the graphic violence in it was just, stomach turning, and they couldn't get through it. And I would always say, show me the page where you read the graphic violence.
Yeah.
Because it isn't there. It's all in your head.
Wow.
And it is. There's nothing overt. There's no descriptions of violence in the book. There's references to what might have happened, but there's no descriptions. But in their minds, it was graphic, and they couldn't continue.
What about the fallout or the backlash from the different organizations involved with missing? One of the issues with the first few episodes was the lack of acknowledgement, I think, on the missing Indigenous, missing women, and is what this part of the subject matter of The Highway and Big Sky is.
It is, yeah. Missing Indigenous women, girls in Montana, which is a real issue. I mean, that's a real thing. The numbers are there, and but that's not what the book was about. The book was about an anomaly that happened on the highway, not every single group that might have been affected. And they've kind of addressed that in the show. The producers they've sort of written it in. It's a legitimate issue, but it wasn't the issue in the book. So I can kind of say, not my fault. I wrote a book called Blood Trail that is about that subject exactly early on, and kind of loose. I don't know if you saw the movie Wind River.
That's a great movie. It's outstanding. Yeah.
Well, if you read the book Blood Trail, you'll know where the idea came from. Let me put it that way. So I've dealt with that issue before. And you can't, in any book, or I can't imagine, or any really TV series, make every single interest group happy and recognized as they want to be.
It's impossible to do that.
Yep.
You mentioned just the other day that the Joe Pickett series has been optioned. Is that what it is, or did they go straight to did they buy the 10 episodes already, or what's the story there? I don't know all the info yet, or what you can tell us.
I can't tell you everything because I've pledged to the producers to hold off on that until they are ready to make a big announcement, which could be as early as this week.
Oh, wow.
What we do know is that there was a story in the Calgary Herald that production offices have been opened in Calgary for a Joe Pickett series. That's as much as I can confirm. But I'm pretty excited about it. They want to be able to make an announcement when they have actors in place and more information that they can put out there. There's so much PR and entertainment, I've found out, and they don't like people stepping on it. But whoever the reporter was for the Calgary Herald already, kind of let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah. So who would you ideally have as Joe Pickett? Who would be the actor to play Joe Pickett?
Oh, good question.
I've been asked that a million times, and I've never had an actor in mind, ever. Every once in a while I'll see somebody in something else and go, hey, that guy could be a good Joe Pickett. But honestly, I never think of him other than a Wyoming game warden. I don't think of him as a movie star.
Yeah.
I'm kind of hoping. I haven't been involved in the casting, don't want to be, but I did express to the producers that I would rather have an unknown actor who was Joe Pickett than a well-known actor who was a big star. And I don't know if that's the direction they're going to go. We'll see.
I've got to say that ever since I saw your picture in your books, that I've always thought that you were Joe Pickett. In my mind, you are Joe Pickett.
I'm too old.
That's the unknown actor.
White hair.
Just use a little bit of Just for Men. You're fine.
Yeah. No. I've met several game wardens who I thought, this is Joe Pickett right here, right in front of me.
Yeah.
But actors, who knows?
Who knows? We better talk about Dark Sky. It's coming out on March 2nd, wherever you get your books. What can we say about the new book? It's the 21st Joe Pickett book now, isn't it?
Sure. Yes, it is. It's in this book, Joe Pickett is asked by the governor of Wyoming, who he does not get along with, to guide an elk hunting trip for a high-tech billionaire mogul.
Wow.
Into the Bighorn Mountains in Wyoming, because this mogul wants to experience every kind of thing there is in the world, and he's never done anything like going on a wilderness hunting trip. And the governor wants Joe to do it because he wants this company to establish a gigantic server farm in Wyoming and bring economic development. But as soon as Joe Pickett gets into the mountains with this guy and his entourage, he realizes that they're being hunted themselves. And within not too many pages, Joe Pickett is up there without weapons or transportation, horses, communication. Basically, it's a wilderness survival story of he and the high-tech mogul versus some people who are after him. Oh. So with this new book, I wanted to really strip things down to the studs. Doesn't really include the family much. Isn't really a police procedural of any kind. It's basically a wilderness survival story with a lot of violence in it. Wow. So I'm excited for the book because it's different. And those that have read it, most people have not been able to put it down at all till they get to the end.
That's how I am with almost all of your books. Unless I have to do something else, it's kind of started on a Friday night and wake up and I don't get to sleep. I just read the book and then I get to go to sleep. It doesn't matter what's going on.
Good. I love to hear that.
Through. The Wasey, there's one question we got to ask. We better get to that before we're done here.
I have one more question in regards to you mentioned like the violent parts of your novels. You ever writing one of those sections and you're like, whoa, this is like some heavy stuff.
I do. Yeah. I do that. It's really weird. Personally, I'm really squeamish when it comes to blood. Mm-hmm. My wife recently had knee surgery, and I fainted when I saw it. Yeah, I fell against the wall. I can write that stuff, and what I really try to do is do violence accurately, and it's messy and it's awful. And because I'm a hunter, I know what it's like. What gunshots do, and how animals can suffer, and so I try to put that in the book in an accurate way instead of a romantic way, because I think sometimes that it's so awful that I hope it drives home how bad these things can be.
Sorry, go ahead, Waze. Did you have something else?
No. I was just going to say, Nate Romanowski carries a handgun, it's a real one, called the 454 Casull, which for a few years was known as the most powerful handgun in the world. And the damage that round can do is incredible. And I've seen it because I've been to the factory in Wyoming and shot it. It can literally kill a car by the round going through the engine block. And, it's really lethal. And I try to describe what it can do.
You mentioned getting being with your friend who Nate is based off of, and you guys got held up and by gunpoint. Is that the craziest story from when you were on a research adventure? Is that the most scared you were when on one of those research trips?
Well, I wasn't really doing research. I hadn't even started writing at that point.
Oh, wow.
But that was something that I could draw back on. He hung out with some really dicey characters for a while, other falconers, and they used to live in a little spot in Wyoming where their income came from all sorts of illicit enterprises that they were involved in, and they justified it because they were falconers. They couldn't they didn't have to go to work. But I got involved in some things with them that I don't know if the statute of limitations is over yet so I'm not going to talk about. But learned a lot.
Wacy, I'll let you.
Sorry, one more question.
Yeah, go ahead. You're good.
Is that area I think it's northwest, like the border of the Yellowstone? Is that where they say murder's legal? Is that a real thing?
It's actually in one of the books. It's in one of the books.
Well, it's funny because it's popped up because I've just gotten to Yellowstone, and that's part of it. And then I saw a TikTok video about it, and I was curious to know because you know the area so well. It's
actually in the extreme southeast part of Yellowstone Park.
Okay.
Where if you can vision the park, 95% of Yellowstone Park is in Wyoming. Mm-hmm. 3% is in Montana on the north, and 2% or a little less is in Idaho on the east. The part where you could conceivably get away with murder is that little Idaho section.
Wow.
Because there are no residents. So because of all these weird legal things in the U.S. Constitution, you have to draw a jury from the state and district where the crime is committed, and there are 0 residents there. So there's the theory is if something happened there organically, you couldn't have a jury trial.
Wow. Interesting.
And there's not even any roads there, as far as I can tell.
There is one road.
There is a road? Is it the one that goes
There's
from
a road that goes
to Big Springs?
It goes from Rexburg to the place in Yellowstone called Beckler River Ranger Station. And then it stops. It doesn't connect with anything. So if you go in that part of Yellowstone Park, the only way to get out is to backtrack and go around the park. You can't go through it to anywhere.
Rexburg. Wow. That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff. It's cool that's a thing in this day and age. It's hard to even think about it. But yeah, it looks like we're getting short on time here, so we don't keep any longer, and we'll finish off with one question we ask all our guests. And what is your definition of cowboy shit?
Oh,
the hard-hitting questions.
It is. It's one I haven't given any thought to. I guess it's kind of like what I would say, things are about to get Western. that doesn't necessarily mean that it even happens in the West. It just means the situation is spinning out of control, and fists are going to fly and bottles are going to break. I guess I would define it as that.
I like it. I like it. We didn't talk about Cheyenne. I gotta touch on that really quick. What was your involvement on Frontier Days when you were a part of it?
I was a volunteer when we don't live there anymore, but when I lived there, I was a volunteer for about 20 years. And the first 4 years I was on the contestants committee, which meant I ran shoot number 2.
Okay.
In the arena, which it was a great job and pretty interesting. But then I went from there and was on the PR committee for a lot of years, and then eventually on the board of directors. I wasn't on the general committee, the people who put on the rodeo. I was on the board of directors, which is separate from that.
Yeah.
For I think 8 years
Okay.
or so. And I really loved it, and I still love it. And once you're a volunteer for Frontier Days, you're always a volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
And you're always welcome back, and it's a lot of fun.
I think it's a kind of a similar structure to Calgary, and when you have your Joe Pickett series being filmed around Calgary, you'll have to look us up and come to that Stampede finally, if we get to have it here one of these days.
My horrible confession to make is that I have never been to the Calgary Stampede, and I am definitely going to come visit the set of this show that we can't announce sometime this summer.
Outstanding. Well, when you get up here, look us up. We'll show you around, show you Calgary.
Will do. I'd like it. I'd like to. It's always fun to go around with somebody who knows the area.
Oh yeah, yeah. We know a bit of it now, so sounds like a plan. Well, we sure appreciate your time today here, Mr. Box. This was awesome. I appreciate your time. Thanks for doing this with us.
Thank you. It was fun. Good questions.
Oh, thank you. We'll try and do better next time when we get when we can actually announce the show, and whatnot. So that'll be perfect. Well, thanks again. Our guest today has been Mr. CJ Box, coming to us from his home in Saratoga, Wyoming. Remember, you can get Big Sky wherever books are sold starting March 2nd, 2021. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. That was a lot of fun.
That was great. Yeah, it was awesome.
It was. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Have a good rest of your day.
I've got to go let my dogs outside.
Sounds great. Okay, we'll see you.
Bye.
Bye. Cowboy Shit with Ted and Wasey. I'm Ted. He's Wasey. This is episode 85. We just talked to author CJ Box and had a really fun chat. Wace, what did you?
It's cool to talk to a guy who writes books. I think that'd be a really hard profession. I hate writing, so yeah, it was neat, man. It was cool. Like I haven't really read any of his books, but it was cool to hear like how his process works and where he draws inspiration from and stuff. And it's cool to see that he actually has like the Big Sky TV show is kind of a cool thing. Yeah. So
just wrapped up the first season the other day, but if you haven't seen it, check it out on any of the major networks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good show.
You can check it out. And Wasey, speaking of TV, you had a question that we were going to speak of. Oh, yeah. Before we get to that though, again, Dark Sky is in your local bookstores March 2nd. Check it out. CJ's latest book. Latest Joe Pickett novel. Check it out. Yeah, March 2nd. But ways to get back to your question, what do you have?
So we were talking about a bit off camera, but what game show or shows do you think you would do the best on? I think it's a fun thing to think about.
The only one I've ever thought about applying for, I just had another thought too, but the only one I ever thought of applying for, you mentioned it before too, was The Amazing Race. Mm-hmm. And actually, funny story, but we have a former Amazing Race contestant coming up on the next show, Cord McCoy.
We can really see how well we would do on the show through the questions we're about to ask him.
Yeah, so we'll get some stuff going on that. But I guess I just realized this too. So The Amazing Race would be one that I think I could actually do well at. But then I just realized that I thought about doing one of those home shows. Like I know it's not a game show, but like applying to have you like house fixed up. It's not a game show.
Oh, like
but it's like a show.
Extreme Home Makeover.
Yeah, something like that where you fix your house up.
Move that bus.
But that's not. We don't need that.
Homes
like,
on homes.
Yeah, we don't need need a free house. I'm just saying like
you need
like
homes
the thing
on
where
you need Mike
we,
Holmes.
Yeah, we just like fix the old HQ up a little bit.
That's
but then I
funny.
also remembered a story about Devin Maisy being on a wipeout.
Man, Brock put it on his Snapchat story the other day.
Oh, really?
It was so funny.
When Devin was on it?
Yeah, Brock Radford. I was watching his Snapchat, or he had posted on a Snapchat story the other day, and it was Devin's clip from him on
Wipeout.
On Wipeout, yeah, it was funny.
Yeah, that was some funny shit.
Man, that would be hard. I think Wipeout would be one of the hardest ones.
He had to go to like Argentina or some crazy shit to film that.
That'd be cool.
We'll have to get him on the show sometime to bullshit about that. That was some fun. Devin's got some fun stories.
Yeah. Do you remember MXC, Most Extreme Elimination Challenge? Man, that show's so sick.
But I don't think I could do well at any of those ones.
Really? I think I could. Yeah. I don't know, maybe. For me, I think Amazing Race I would do well on. Mm-hmm. That's without me like having anything.
And why? Okay, why?
Why? I'm really good with logistics when I'm traveling. Like I'm good at finding routes and getting to where I need to be, and I like being in that control like that. So
can you do it in a foreign language?
Yeah, I think you could. Yeah, it would be.
You think I could, or you think you could?
I think we both would be pretty good at it. Like I think any like rodeo person would do well on the Amazing Race,
as we saw with Cord.
You have to, though. You know what I mean, though. Like it's one of those things where that's kind of like rodeo in a sense where you're just on the move and like kind of in a hurry to get places, and it's still a bit different, like going country to country. But I think that most rodeo people would do well. I also think I would like kill it at Family Feud and The Price is Right. I watched enough Price is Right as a kid growing up that I could get to the daily showdown or whatever it is for sure.
Okay. Yeah. What do you think you'd be bad at?
Bad at? Mm-hmm. Ooh, Wipeout.
I think that's built for anybody to be bad.
Yeah, to be bad.
I would be.
I'd like to think I'd be good at. I like to think I would be good at it, but I think I'd get toasted in it.
At Jeopardy?
Yeah, because it's funny because like all the clips we see of Jeopardy and stuff are the ones where it's like, which Canadian hockey player, this, that, and the other, and it's all Americans, so they never get them right. It's like, I can get that question right. Easy. But I think that, Jeopardy, I would like to think I would do great at it, but I would not do well.
I actually golfed with a guy that was a contestant on Jeopardy last summer, and he talked about, he actually played against Ken Jennings. So he was actually on the show and lost to Ken Jennings. But he told me, I'm not remembering what his name is now, but he told me that all the people knew the answers to the questions because it was all like with Jeopardy. It's a trivia game, and he said that all the questions are a certain amount of things. Like it's world history, U.S. presidents, it's geography, a few sports stats, right? Like the big stuff in sports. I'm not going to do anything too vague, right?
Specific.
And then there was one other thing, probably like literature, right? There's a few different things where if you know all the basics of all these different things,
you'll do well.
Then you're going to know the stuff, and they show you what you're supposed to study and whatever. But he said that they all knew the answer to the question, but the trick with Jennings was that he had the trigger finger thing figured out to where everybody was. That's why you see them all mashing the buttons all the time, is because they're trying to get in because they know the answer, but they only pick the guy that gets the first one. So there's like a countdown, like a light bulb, and you have to push the button at a certain time. And Jennings figured out how to mash that button, and that's why he did so good, according to the guy. Right?
Well, but there's people who get questions wrong though, like so they can't know all the answers. True.
Yeah, but the majority, right? They're just trying to get in because then they have a chance. So
I just remembered what show I would do the worst on. It's Fear Factor for sure. I would
that would be bad.
That'd be tough, man. Bad. I could do like the extreme stuff. Like I could like muster up enough like to make it happen. But when it comes to like the sitting in a tub of snakes or like eating a worm, like that's a no from me, dog.
Or 100-year-old egg or whatever.
I think you would do well on like a Survivor or Alone. Like you ever see the show Alone on the History Channel? It's worse than Survivor. It's worse than Survivor in the sense where it's like they plop you on Victoria Island and you're by yourself and you get there's a list of 10 things you get to bring with you.
Naked and afraid.
And you have to, you just have to, the last person alone and who can survive the longest in the woods gets like $1 million. But Survivor wouldn't be as bad because you're with people and it'd be kind of funny. But
yeah, I don't know what it would be like. When I was in Nicaragua one time, I went by one of the beaches where they had Survivor, and it was literally just like around the corner from the place we were staying at. Like that was where the beach
Not all
was.
it seems to be.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Like, we always would have it. We always have, or what am I trying to say? We'd always have. I don't know what I was trying to say. We always think that it's in some deserted place where they're all stuck somewhere, but it was literally like on a beach in Nicaragua. Like you could like walk to it. Like it was kind of secluded, but like if you just were to like walk like 10 kilometers, you could just like go walk to town and get a cheeseburger. So I don't know, and I don't know. Like they wouldn't have any money to be able to do that. But if they're that close to civilization, even if you like swim around a corner,
it's kind of not the same. Kind of loses some of the effect of it.
Yeah, so I wonder how much of that is staged now, especially with how long it is.
For sure.
How long they've been doing the show, but
it's a lot. I was talking to my brother about like American Idol and how that's like all staged. A lot of it, like it's just like they identify the people that are going to work for their like program to like keep people engaged, and those are the people who end up making it through. Yeah, I think The Amazing Race, though. I know they've had a Canadian version too, and that a couple of people that we know have applied for. Like Brett Monia applied for it. Steve Prankard from Feature Productions, he applied for it too, I think. I think Monia actually got picked, but it was a year when he didn't think he could get away for the 2 months because it was like April and May. He was like, "Oh, I can't miss all these we should
rodeos."
apply. Cowboy Shit Team.
Yeah, we could.
I would do it. That'd be fun. We might kill each other along the way, but
well, that's a thing that I wanted to mention is that I wonder what the hardest part of it is. Like, is it getting along with your counterpart and being with them?
No,
for
I think a lot of that would be like they would see like that's the content they put out because people like seeing that like tension between teammates. I think the hardest part would be. Yeah, I don't know what the hardest. That's a good question for Cord.
Yeah, right. Because he went with his brother, and they're like the nicest guys ever. So how do you not get along with them?
Well,
right?
I mean, it's one of those things. Like, I say you and I were to do it. Like, I'm sure we'd butt heads here and there, but it wouldn't be to the point where it's like we want to leave, kind of thing.
Yeah,
but.
Yeah, right. It'd be a matter of trying to be the most efficient to get around what we had to, what we got to do. But yeah, we could apply for it. Let's check it out sometime. I'm just Googling it right now. But anyways, probably shouldn't work on that.
Canada. We're coming for you.
But like the driving part's fine. I've driven on the other side of the road before. I've driven on the other side, I guess the left-hand side of the road for us in Canada. Like Australia, I did that before. I've been to where else have you been in the world, Wace? You've been to
Mexico. I haven't been
right?
overseas.
You haven't been over the seas yet, right? So you might have a little bit of culture shock in the big centers like Tokyo and Bangkok, and I don't know. I've never been to China, but being in Southeast Asia and Thailand and Malaysia.
But if you boil any place down, it's the same. Like if you think of it like logically, like you just follow the signs of where you need to go, and if you're aware of where you're driving, I might be a bit crazier, but the bones of everywhere is pretty essentially the same.
The tough part of that, and I don't know what the rules are with having a phone and having like Google Maps or something, which would totally make it different now. But the challenging part is reading and understanding those signs in the different languages and understanding the characters on the signs. Like to go see a Russian sign and like Moscow isn't written in English on a sign that says Moscow. It'd be something in Russian and I wouldn't understand how to read the signs. Where I don't know, like you haven't seen that. You've seen it in Mexico, but Spanish is pretty similar.
Yeah, no, for sure. It'd be tough in like the language, like where you don't like. I've never seen any of it. Like
that's the thing is when like Tokyo, they have a train station there that I think my mom said 750,000 people go through it every day. And we actually lost my brother there when he was like 14. He just went home, and we were all freaked out that he got abducted or like got lost or whatever. We didn't know, but he just went back to the hotel. But like to have I don't know how to read Japanese, right? So that's the thing where
that's why you got to use the people around you, though, because a lot of people in those countries can speak English. Like
they can, but
to a small extent. But like I'm talking like in an Amazing Race format, when you're in a hurry and stuff, you got to utilize like what's around you. It's challenging for sure, and that's when you watch the show. That is like challenges they come up with. But if you utilize like the resources around you, I think it'd help. Like because I don't think you get to use your phone. I don't think you get to.
I think you're right.
Yeah,
I think you'll be surprised when you do go overseas ways. You might have a culture shock. I think you might be a little surprised about what things look like out there when you get over the ocean, whether you go to Southeast Asia or if you go, I don't know, I haven't been to Africa yet either, but I think you'll be surprised on how much different it is compared to North America. So I'm looking forward to when you get to go because I think you'll really enjoy it. But One more question, right? I had a story that I wanted to tell about the about New Mexico. So we're talking about some crazy stories different times, and I forgot about this one. There was already the one where I ran away from the cops and we got away, luckily. But the other one was there was a time when we were all at school there, and I had this old car, this Monte Carlo. It was a pretty sweet car at the time.
I remember that car of yours.
Remember Carlos?
Mm-hmm.
Carlos the car.
Mm-hmm.
So we there was a big storm rolling in, and we all thought we needed to like there were some people that had nicer vehicles than me, and I like my car was used and it was kind of old or whatever. But we thought we all needed to move our cars out into the barn at the rodeo grounds because there was a big hailstorm coming in. So we all like ran down from our dorms and whatnot, and I remember running across the parking lot thinking we're all in this big rush. Like, oh, I don't want to get hailed on. Like everybody was freaking out. I'm like, I don't really care, but I'll go drink beer with you guys in the barn at the grounds right at the practice arena. So I like go darting across the parking lot, and I just get plowed over by a car. But luckily, like I got hit. Literally, like the car was coming and hit me on the right side, and I just kind of like it caught me on the corner on its like one headlight, and it bowled me over, and I kind of like bounced off the hood and on the ground and landed on my hands. I had some like gravel in my palm of my hands, but I remember just getting up and like waving and like, yeah, okay, bye. I'm sorry. Like I was just so embarrassed. I was like, sorry. Kind of like the part from Alf where he gets smoked by the car, and it wasn't going very fast. Neither was this one. They were in a parking lot, right? But like got enough where it took me out the knees and I fell down and buggered up my hands a little bit.
It's good that you went over and not under.
Yeah, but I mean, they pretty much were stopped too. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, if I would have went under, they would have been worse, right? That's why I just kind of tuck and rolled, and Dukes of Hazzard.
That's wild, man.
Fell over the front of it, but
I've never been in like a scenario like that where I've been hit by a vehicle. I've been run over by like cows and stuff lots. I've been sacrificed by my dad, but I've never over the car. That's funny, man.
I'm thankful that that's all it was, because that could have been bad, right? Like just not thinking.
Oh, dude,
across and, like, get smoked by a bus and you're fucking dead.
But now you live to tell a tale, and you can tell people you got hit by a car.
Yeah. I can't believe I just remembered about that story now.
Stuff that we've endured in college.
Just so embarrassed. Like I wasn't even hurt.
So did you go drink beer after and tell people you got hit by a car?
Yeah, I was like, guys, I just got hit by a car. And like, what the fuck, you retard? They're pissed about it. But anyways, I guess that's the end of the show, Waste. You got anything else? Can we shut it down?
No, man, I'm good. That's good for me.
That was a fun good one. Fun show.
Oh, did you mention the new merch that's coming?
Oh man, how did I forget that shit? Yeah, new merch. Look, I got a new hoodie right
Don't
here.
Get the new merch.
Nice. Cowboy shit in stores now. The new spring 21 line. We got some new hats. You guys have seen us wear these for quite a while now. We got the gray. This is the Wood Mountain.
There's some spicy
gray and blue
dropping. Oldest rodeo in Canada. The Wood Mountain Stampede.
Wasey's rocking the. We're calling that one the Valley Ridge / Happy Valley. It used to be called Happy Valley. I don't know if we're supposed to use the Valley Ridge.
Do Happy Valley.
Word.
Do Happy Valley.
We're doing Happy Valley with the sweet golden black. And we have another version of it that's coming out too for spring. This is Steppin'. It's kind of a couple different colors. Storm made it up. We got this one. There's a bunch of new stuff. Going to have it online in the next couple weeks. But check it out in a few stores now. For it. Yeah, it's already at a few stores in Alberta. Check it out. Make sure to get your merch, cowboyshit.ca. Listen to past episodes. And yeah, that's all.
Thanks for tuning in, people.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, folks. Another solid show. Appreciate you. We'll catch you all next time. Thanks again to our guest, CJ Box, our editor Sean Morton, my co-host Wasey Anderson. We'll catch you all next time.
Eastbound and down, loaded up and trucking. Are we gonna do what they say can be done? We've got a long way to go and a short time to get there. I'm eastbound, just like no bandit run. Keep your foot hard on the pedal, son, never mind them brakes. Let it all hang out, cause we got a run to make. The boys are thirsty in Atlanta, and there's beer in Texarkana, and we'll bring it back no matter what it takes. Eastbound and down, loaded up and trucking. Are we gonna do what they say can't be done? We've got a long way to go.
Nice, man. That's good.